and welcome back to HackIt Reptiles. So today we're going to have a little bit of video about quarantining and how to set up a quarantine tub. So first off, what is quarantining and why do we do it? It's very simple. When you are getting a new animal in, what you want to do is you want to isolate it from the rest of yours. I think everyone is familiar with quarantine after the recent past couple of years. But why do we do it for animals? It's because whenever you're getting a new one in, whether it be from another breeder or especially from a pet shop or an expo, you don't know what's been going on. When animals are at expos, they're exposed to a lot of stuff. They're being transported. They can develop respiratory infections. They can be exposed to mites and other sort of ailments. So what you do is when you first get this reptile in, especially if you have other reptiles, you want to isolate it and keep it in another room. Now, if you're getting multiple reptiles, one from one breeder, one from another, you want to quarantine them separately. You don't want to have all your quarantines in one space. Sometimes people have to do that when they're large scale, but if you're just a small person and you pick up a couple of animals from a reptile expo, you pick up 2 snakes, keep them separate. Because you don't want to accidentally, if one of your snakes has mites, you don't want it to pass that on to the other snake. That's why we keep them separate. So you can't be quarantining animals together unless they're from the same person. If you pick up 2 snakes from the same breeder, do it in the same rack, do it in the same room, you're fine. If it's your first snake, you don't need to worry about keeping it in another room. You don't have other animals to worry about. But we're going to be planning on getting a boa soon, and boas have the possibility of carrying different ailments that are more dangerous to pythons. And if you get any sort of snake, there's always the risk of mites, of them having some sort of infection or parasite, especially if they're wild caught. So you want to make sure that you're taking your animal, setting it up in a rather clean environment where you can monitor it for at least 30 days. I know there are some people out there that actually do it for 2 to 3 months. I kind of just do 1 month, but who knows if that would ever change. So to set up a quarantine area, you can do an enclosure, you can do a tub, you can really do it a number of different ways depending on what you have. We're going to be doing snake racks because this is what this animal is going to end up staying in. So first off, we're going to just have a blank tub. It's been sanitized, cleaned, and taken care of, so we don't have to worry about anything like that. Afterwards, we don't want substrate in here. We want to make sure that if there are mites on it, that we can see them. We want to make sure that the animal is going to the bathroom properly. We want to make sure that if it regurgitates, we see it, that it's eating properly. So we're really going to be using a sort of paper substrate. I prefer paper towels, and especially with this tub, it just fits perfectly in there. So all we're going to do is we're just going to take 2 little of the sectioned off ones and just lay them right in there. What that does is it gives us a nice clean base. When the animal goes to the bathroom or anything happens, we can clearly see what's going on. I'll probably pick up some new hides. These are just what I have lying around. But with all of them, with all sorts of reptiles, especially in these things, you want a warm hide, a cool hide, water bowl, and some sort of enrichment. I do really you want a hide that fits the size of the animal. Now, I'm not going to take a small corn snake or a baby hognose snake and put them in this. This is a mansion to a baby animal. But we're looking at ball pythons and boas mainly. So this, depending on when we actually get it in, I might change the size of the enclosure, the hide that we're putting in it. So I'm just going to put 1 hide right towards the back where the heat is. That way this animal can go there. Now, you could also do a small little water dish in here. You could do something like one of these, or the ceramic ones, or any sort of water dish. That way the animal has access to water. But I actually have a couple of these, and I love these things. They're multifunctional, so it's a water dish, but it also has access points, and the snakes curl up. I've noticed my snakes personally love these when they're younger. They feel really secure, and they actually use it to help thermoregulate because they're right up against the water. So we're just going to put this right over on the cool side to separate it out. Now we've got tons of different things in here. We really want to keep this actually kind of barren for us to just really monitor what's going on. I'll probably end up swapping this out for a smaller bowl because it's a little bit too big for this size tub. But we'd probably put something like either a vine or some cork, maybe break this cork down even smaller than what we have. I've got a much larger piece, which would be for something bigger. But you could really take something and just add some sort of thing that's rough, for them to interact with. If they're going through sheds, they need to be able to rub themselves up against something to break that shed off. Something to help interact, but we don't want too much in here. Right now, that is It's very barren, but this is also meant for us to really monitor the animal and make sure that it's doing well. This is not going to be its permanent setup or anything, especially not for being fully grown. This is for a young animal that will be able to stretch out in here. We'll definitely change it up a little bit, probably swap out this or something. You could add a little bit of, you know, little garnish on top, if you will. But really the whole point of this is to give the animal what it essentially needs for the first 30 to 60 days. That way you can keep an eye on it, make sure it's doing well, healthy. You're able to keep track of its eating, how it's shedding. You're able to clearly see what's going on and you know what it has access to. So that's the basics of setting up a quarantine tub in this case. If you were doing this for an enclosure, it would be very similar. Depending on the size of it, you want to add a little bit of clutter in it. That way your animal still feels secure, but not too much stuff. That way you're going to be hiding signals that you would otherwise be looking for. We're going to be getting another small 10-gallon tank in soon that we're also going to be using for the same purpose. We're going to be using it as a quarantine tank, and we'll be using paper towel as the main substrate for that purpose. That way we can clearly see what's going on. We'll have the warm hide, cool hide, water bowl, and some sort of enrichment, something for the animal to interact with, rub against, feel a different texture in this environment. And then once the animal has gone through its period of quarantine, we know that it's healthy, or if it was sick, we dealt with those kind of things. If it had mites, we treated them. If it had a respiratory infection, we dealt with that. Once that's done, then we'll introduce substrate, change it up a little bit. But that's the basics of setting up a quarantine tank and why we quarantine our animals. Thanks for tuning in. Please leave us a like and a comment down below of what you thought and what you'd like us to cover next. So give us a subscribe so you know the next time we post, and we'll see you in the next one.